Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast, episode 42, Sand and Stars, part 3. So we're going to do the third part of this wonderful four-parter, which is from Starman Volume 2, number 22. And our second comic today will be the Sandman story from Adventure Comics 76. Yes, it is a Simon and Kirby, Sandman and Sandy comic. So I'm excited to talk about both, and let's get to some of the pertinent data. So issue 22 was published on July 3rd, 1996. It's cover dated September 1996. It has a wonderful Tony Harris cover. I love it. I think it's a very good cover. It is beautiful green. It's a green. It's emerald green and blue, and it shows Jack and Wesley facing each other, very large heads facing each other, and below that is the Sandman's hat and mask and goggles and sand gun and Jack's staff and deputy badge. Very good, a really wonderful cover. The credits for this, there is a little more than the normal art team, in which we will all kind of appreciate. That it is written by James Robinson, as always. It is penciled by Tony Harris and Guy Davis, because there was a wonderful flashback by art by Guy Davis, set in the Sandman Mystery Theater kind of storytelling. Inkers are Wayne Van Gruber and Guy Davis. Colorist is Patricia Mulhaven and David Horning. Letters, Bill Oakley and NJO. Editors are Archie Goodwin, Chuck Kim. Mike Carlin is the executive editor. The synopsis in the DC Fandom Wiki is: Warren Grail invites Wesley Dodds and Dian to his airfield during a press conference. While there, Dodds dons his Sandman guise and snoops around, hoping to find his kidnapped friend, Jack Knight. Behind closed door, he overhears Warren's plan to bring down an airship. Warren also reveals that he was the man behind John Blaine's murder, an airfield owner. Sandman continues to search for Jack and finds him inside a guarded room. He hesitates to save him because he believes he lacks courage since he is now an old man. He then remembers a past adventure with Ted Knight, which helps him decide he'd rather save his friend and go down fighting than to do nothing at all. Main characters are Sandman Wesley Dodds, Starman Ted Knight, Diane Belmont's in it, Warren Gale, Nobody posing as David Croft, and Mr. Gale's guards, the Gambler, Stephen Sharp the third version. Other characters you see: Sandman Jack Knight, Clarice, Red Bailey, Diane Lance, because we talk about Diane Lance and Ted Knight's affair. And this has been reprinted in Starman, A Wicked Inclination, and Starman Omnibus Volume 2, and the hardcover and the soft cover, and Starman Compendium Volume 1. And this says Tony Harris and Wayne Van Gruber illustrate the main story, while Guy Davis illustrates flashback sequences. So let me just start talking about this. It starts out with this wonderful first page, which has a panel in kind of full color, and then we move into the apartment. It's all done in pinks and pinks when you're in Wesley's, and purples in Wesley's apartment, and more regular colors when they're talking to Grail. And I love how Wesley kind of invites himself to the press conference, invites himself to the air show launch. This all knowing that Jack went to the factory in the last episode and has been captured. And then we cut to a 2-page spread. It says Sand and Stars, and it's at the airfield. And we see Wesley infiltrate. We're also we see that Grail and the pilot are actually other people, are really behind everything. And we see that moment where he goes through the machinery, he goes by all this stuff, and he peeks in, he finds the office, and then he starts thinking to himself, all right, now, I know who's behind this. I know where Jack is, and I know what I should do next. My only question, am I able? Sigh, I'm old. I'm afraid. Am I afraid? Is that it? callow time has taken me yearly, no glorious death, rather a sad wasting. Has my courage gone too? I look at armored weaponry, the signs of tomorrow, and I ask myself, am I able? And then we go to the flashback to this adventure where Ted's come to town tracking down the gambler, and Wesley helps him out. And then when he can't find, when Ted doesn't show up the next day, and it's been a while, and he hasn't even called back to say he's solved the case, Wesley reaches out to Bailey, Inspector Bailey, Ted's friend on the police force, and he goes looking for him, and he finds Starman is strapped to a roulette wheel, or maybe it's a lucky draw wheel at this former speakeasy gambling den, and he comes in and fights, and they have this great adventure. I love the way Guy Davis draws Ted Knight's costume. It's a little baggy, like it's made of, thick cloth, or, it's not this skin-tight superhero thing. It looks like real clothes. It has wrinkles. It fits his body oddly. The mask looks like a mask. I mean, it's just absolutely stunning. And then we go back to Wesley, and he goes, I was then. I did what I had to do. And Ted, he did what he did. Then a friend needed me. I was there. And he was there when I needed him. It's the same. It seems I should recall what I said to young Jack to be true to those words. Life should be measured by quality. And so, if this must be the last thing I do, I die content. And that's the end of the comic. Absolutely great. Basically, we get from, him getting to the airfield. He's just searching to rescue Jack. We think he's going to, if you're reading this for time, he's going to rescue Jack. But then we see this other adventure, and it's drawn in the other style, the one that is in Sandman Mystery Theater, which has been going on a little longer than this book. And it really ties those two books together, that the 40s look like that, the 90s look like this. And again, like what I was talking about aging in the last comic, where Jack's thinking about aging. It is, Wesley, am I too old to be a hero? Am I too old to keep my word? Am I unable to do what I need to do to rescue a friend and stop someone from doing harm to the city, to people, to stand up and stop a villain and rescue a friend? And the answer is no. Wesley's a man of conscience. He's a man of integrity. He is a hero, and I don't mean that as he wants to be a hero. He is a hero by nature, that he takes the extra step, that he does the extra thing, that he moves forward into danger, not for the glory, not for praise, not for gain, because it is the right thing to do, and to save a friend is the right thing to do. That you stand up to the bully, you stand up to the villain no matter what, and if it means it costs you something, that has value, that your life has value. And if it has to be, in this case, his last act will be of a value and of bravery and of doing the right thing. And honestly, I don't think people do that anymore. I really think we have less of these kind of heroes. I know these are fictional heroes, people who put on suits and sand guns and do things, but I don't think that really happens. We have people we're moving backwards when it comes to how we interact as people. In some ways, we're more selfish, we're more narcissistic. I think a lot. I love the internet because I've made a lot of friends on it, but I also think that we're now being told that I can say whatever I want, even if it harms somebody, because it doesn't matter. I have a right to say it, but you don't. You have a right to say it, but you shouldn't. You should do the right things. You should do the things that push people up, that lift people up, not protect your own interest. Okay? Too many people going, this is me on my soapbox. Too many people going, what about me? And not about what about we. And I just love this. This is great. This is a great comic book. Yes, it's got a message, folks. Stories have messages. Stories without messages are empty vessels. They are meaningless. Yes, there are some stories that are entertaining and light and fluffy, but they still have a little message. They're teaching you to be happy. They're teaching you to laugh. They're teaching you to be introspective. They're doing something. And whether you call it woke or a parable or a lesson or a plot device, whatever you want to frickin' call it, there's more to a story than just telling the story. I mean, there has to be something. There has to. You're trying to have get a reaction out of your audience, and in this one, I think James Robinson is a very introspective man. I think he's thinking about himself. What would I do in these cases? What does a hero think? And I think he nails it. They question themselves. You know, I've talked about this. I grew up around military people. My dad fought in 2 wars. I can't imagine what the thoughts in his heads, or someone who is put in danger, or someone, a police officer or a fireman or a lifeguard, people who have to go and risk something for any reason, from as simple as a lifeguard to a soldier on the battlefield, that they must be having these conversations with themselves. Do I do it? Every time. It's not, I'm trained to do it and I must do it. And and some great, you ever see soldiers from the Second World War talking about when you call them a hero, a lot of them will say, I wasn't a hero. The one who gave their life was a hero. I was just doing my job. Because that's how they rationalize these horrific things that they were asked to do, and they did, to save the world. So I love this. I'm a big fan of The Greatest Generation. I know it is not as, in reality, nothing is as good as its reputation or its image, but there is something about that 40s, everybody coming together to fight fascists and the Nazis and save the world. And that's kind of why I think these 40s heroes kind of speak to me, because it was a different time and people were more willing to step up and do the right thing. And I'm loving the story. I'm getting a lot more out of it. As I say on Gallifrey's Most Wanted, I say on this is art. When you reread something or you see a piece of television again, you're never going to interpret it the same way twice. You're always going to be affected by what is going on in the now, and it's going to affect how you read the story. And I'm really digging this 4-parter. I can't wait to talk about part 4 because it's just as great. But we're going to move on. We're going to move on to Adventure Comics number 76 and a Golden Age Sandman story, which is called, wrong tab. So we're going to be talking, it's from Adventure Comics 76. We've already covered this, I think, for the Starman story. Was published on May 27th, 1942. Cover dated July 1942. It's a 10-cent comic. Editor Murray Boltinoff, creator of Earth B. The story's name is Mr. Noah Raids the Town. It is a 10-pager. It's Sandman of Earth 2. It is written in pencil by Jack Kirby, inked by Joe Simon. It was reprinted in Sandman and Joe Simon and Jack Kirby hardcover. I might have to get that because that's not in the archives, and I don't have the archives. Sandman, his last appearance was in All-Star Comics 32 before this, and his next one is in Adventure Comics 77. Oh, no, I have not gotten to this part. That's All-Star. That's chronology. Okay. Sandy the Golden Boy is in it. Noah Barton and his men. He's a gangster. The Sandman drives a sand car in this story. That is awesome. The synopsis from Mike's Amazing World is Noah Barton conceives a criminal plan based upon a dream. He builds an ark and publicly proclaims himself a prophet of doom. He loads animals onto his ark and claims they can talk. Everybody dismisses him as a lunatic. A short time later, Noah's henchmen dressed in animal costumes commit several robberies. Police believe they are real animals. The Sandman tries to stop them, but he and Sandy are captured and taken back to the Ark. Noah plans to kill them when... Hold on a second. I can't see this word. When his animal menagerie breaks loose. Sandman and his partners escape the Ark in time, but Noah and his men are trampled in the stampede. All right. This is a very 1940s comic, and I have to say that I really enjoyed it. Jack's art in the 40s is very different than his 60s art, and I kind of dig it. And I went on, none of these are on the app. I found a digital copy of this issue and read it. But this archive's not on the app. A lot of his other stuff, Newsboy Legion and Boys Ranch. I think it was Boys Ranch. Boy Commandos. Boy Commandos is on the DC app, so I'm going to read some of that. I've made myself a little Jack Kirby folder on my app, and I'm going to kind of go read some of those. Pulling up this digital file. The art is stunning. The layouts are great. I know Jack Kirby is Jewish American. I just feel like the villains sometimes look a little too Shylocky for my taste. I think he's just going for weathered old guy, but I don't know. It tweaked me, and I don't think that's Jack's intent. I'm not saying that that's Jack's intent. I just think a lot of villains were drawn that way, and it became a trope, and we forgot where the trope came from. But the art is stunning. This is really stunning stuff. It's so different. It is so different. And I'm reading. I cracked open the second Omni of the Stan and Jack stuff, and I'm watching that art. His 60 arts change, and I've got the fourth. It's now volume 4, but it's being reprinted. But the Jack Kirby Captain America that comes after the Englehart run. I've never read that stuff. I think I probably read it when I was a little kid and just forgot it because Jack didn't really hit me. Jack 70 stuff didn't really hit me. That stuff didn't really hit me. I do like the stuff that he did at DC, some of it, especially like the 2 issues he did in DC first issue special. But this stuff's great. I just don't believe that there's no way these animal costumes were so good that people thought they were real animals. You know what I mean? It's still a dude walking on all fours as a tiger. There's some unbelievable stuff, and then the villain getting trampled to death. But if you can find a copy of this, you have that big hardcover. These are worth reading. I'm going to say this. As a fan who prefers the trench coat, hat, and gas mask version of Sandman more, I really thought I needed to do his first appearance. The first time in the purple costume in the introduction in Sandy, which is not by Jack and Joe Simon. So I knew I had to do Jack because that is so important. The next one I'm going to do is the Justice Society team up, the first 100-page Giant Justice. It's the first time. I'm not sure if that's the first Justice League I ever read. No, it's not. I know it's not, but it's like one of those. It's my first thing with Sandman. It's where Sandy comes back. It's one I hold I love all those DC underpage giants. I just think they're fantastic. But it's one I really hold near and dear because of that story. I really do love that story. All right, folks, that's it for this week. We're about 17 minutes in. I try to keep these short because it's just me jabbering on. I hope you're finding these interesting. I'm finding them interesting to say out loud what I'm thinking, even if I'm just talking to myself and imagining I'm talking to you. I sometimes see Dave and Pete and people I know are listening or have been very kind to say nice things about the podcast and been gracious enough to put me on their show. So next week, in 2 weeks, next week is more Will. And that stuff's just getting so good, guys. It's just so good. It's just so good. And then we'll be back with the last part of this and that wonderful Justice League JSA JLA team up. All right? So as always, be safe, be smart. Please be kind to one another. Do something nice for your neighbor, for your fellow man. Just be kind. And read some comics.